Let me ask you, Tony, just to close. There's an article that I read in the Middle East Eye, and I just wondered if you could comment on it. U.S. contractors at a Gaza aid center interrogated a source of Middle East Eye journalist Mohammed Salama, seeking information about his identity and whereabouts before he was killed. Salama was killed alongside Middle East Eye reporter Ahmed Abu Aziz and three other journalists as they responded to an attack on Nasser Hospital in Han Yunis. The two strikes killed 20 Palestinians. Days before, a source for one of Salama's major investigations for Middle East Eye told him they had been briefly detained at an aid distribution center by U.S. security contractors guarding the site. There, the source said they had been interrogated about the identity of the reporter behind the story. And essentially, the article goes on to argue that after that interrogation, that information was passed on to Israel, on the identity of the journalist. Just if you could comment on that story.
That story shocked me for many reasons. One, it shocked me because that it happened at all. The continued pattern of the IDF killing journalists is something that the world should be afraid of. Like the most threatening weapon to the IDF is a camera. And
yeah,
so there's that aspect of it. But then again, the Middle Eastern Eye are the ones that initially broke the follow-up story from Amir in trying to identify his family. That reporter that's identified in that article was the reporter that I had been communicating with, who had identified the mother, Amir's mother, who's been looking for his body since the 28th of May. No one's seen him since the 28th of May. So that kind of hit home to me also, because that reporter, one of the stories that he had been working on was locating Amir's family, trying to figure out, bring closure. So that hit very close to home. I had communicated with that reporter. I also know as a fact that what they would call temporary detention or temporary holding. It's kind of like with the police. If you're, am I under arrest? No, you're being detained. It's like, okay, well, you're putting handcuffs on me, so you're arresting me. So in that type of situation, they are detained and they're held for questioning. At the sites, on each site, there are 6 cameras on every site. So if like this is a site, there's a camera 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 cameras on every site. One of those cameras is entirely dedicated to analytics, biometrics, facial recognition. Back at these cameras all feed into a view, a screen, back in the main control center in Karim Shalom, where the Joint Tactical Operations, you got SRS, UG, and the IDF. The IDF have a 24/7 permanent presence in the GHF Operations Center. They are there. They have an intel analyst. They have a targeteer, a guy that drops bombs out of a drone. They have a senior officer liaison, and they have this little cell that works in hand with SRS and UG Solutions. I know this because I was one of those UG Solutions contractors in that operations center that daily worked with these guys. So I know exactly what they do, and they're there 24/7. So in this operations center, you have SRS employed military, or not military, but former military, intelligence analysts. Not data collectors, not information collectors, intelligence analysts that sit there, and their whole job during that entire shift that they have, that 12-hour shift, is to watch the cameras on site, specifically the analytics camera, and build this database of facial recognition personnel. Who does that database go to? It goes to the IDF. They control it. So as days went on with more and more data collection, building this database of facial recognition, the IDF would tell us on a normal basis, like, hey, have your security men hold that man there. And, you know, because when you're looking at this crowd of people and there's all these, on the analytics camera, there's all these little boxes. I don't know if you've ever seen facial recognition, but there's all these boxes looking at the faces. What that Intel analyst was doing in the days prior and still ongoing is building a database of POIs, or persons of interest. So if one of those persons of interest would then later be back at the site again, their box on their little screen would be red. So you would know, like, oh, person of interest number 48923 is here. And you look at him. And it always struck me as odd because there was no qualification, characterization, or reason for where someone was a person of interest other than if they were military aged, if they were a male, and if they looked like they could be Hamas. Really? Like, it's so amateur. But anyway, the reporters, people that were reporters, were often some of the first that were put that person on the persons of interest list. So back to this interrogation that occurred on the scene. That happened on site number 3. I know it happened on site number 3 because days before that, that reporter and I, through an NGO, were supposed to have a meeting to meet so that I could talk to the mother. I've talked to the mother once before, but we were going to talk again because she wanted to see some pictures and video that I had of Amir because she hadn't seen those yet. That meeting that I was supposed to have was delayed, or now it's not happening, because no one could find him. No one could find the reporter. So where that happened, where that interrogation or that questioning happened, was at site number 3, south in Khan Yunis, site number 3, the Arviv site that I just told you about where Amir was killed. Site number 3, just south of Nasser Hospital, that same area. So when you look at how the IDF are systematically targeting journalists, targeting anybody that they feel looks like Hamas, they're doing it based on the data collection, the intelligence collection that GHF is providing to them. Why, as a humanitarian relief effort, do you need to spend thousands of dollars on hiring intelligence analysts and biometric data collection cameras on site? Why would you need that if you're doing humanitarian assistance? You don't, unless you're doing something else.